Halo as a franchise is one that is truly one of a kind. A groundbreaking series that joined the world of sci-fi and first-person shooters together. A genre-defining series that's beloved by gamers across the world and one that would make the Xbox 360 reign supreme for more than a decade. Helping solidify video game creation as an art form and its impact on gaming as a whole is rivaled only by a select few. Sadly, the legacy of Halo is not one without error. Bungie, the original developers of the series, were the ones responsible for the original trilogy, one spin-off title, and aided in the development of the fifth installment of the franchise. Alongside 343 Industries, the studio they would later sell the rights to for purposes of following through with other projects they had in development at the time, would mark the beginning of the end for it. I think we can all agree that 343 Industries has done an incredible job at disrespecting the franchise and destroying the good reputation that took a decade to build. I didn't like 4, I struggled through 5, and I tolerated Infinite. But I will say that as much as I dislike 343's installments, we could have had much worse. We could have had what Kathleen Kennedy did to Star Wars or literally anything else.
Any diverse woman in it, make it same!
But Mrs. Kennedy, Bambi's a baby deer.
Fuck baby dear, put a chicken in, make her gay!
As much as I could spend hours complaining about the problems with modern day media and the ruining of franchises based off of arbitrary or agenda pushing motives, I don't really want to. And I'm not going to, for now. There's already plenty of that going around the internet, and I find being mad at things, even if it's justified, to be extremely tiresome. Rather, I want to celebrate great work in this tumultuous time in the hobby we all know and love, rather than just focusing on the negative. I want to go back in time and relive the good memories and fun and adventure that people with passion and talent gave us through long hours of painstaking work. I want to talk about my favorite installment in the franchise that started my love for gaming, and one that I never get tired of and always look for an excuse to play just one more time. Because I remember Halo 3 ODST and when gaming was great. There's something strange that happens while playing any other Halo game, and more specifically within the original trilogy. In the original 3, you play as a Spartan, John 117, more commonly known as the Master Chief. The Master Chief is responsible for massive amounts of carnage to the enemies of humanity, the amalgamation of a multitude of different alien races in the religious quest to find and activate the Halo installations. Ancient technology left by the Forerunners, a powerful race that formed a galaxy-wide empire tens of thousands of years before the events of the first game. While playing as Master Chief, you feel invincible. The first game you explore silent foreign lands that haven't been set foot on for God only knows how long, with the only source of noise to fill the emptiness of abandoned alien structures being the mowing down of hundreds of enemies equipped with your standard issue MA5B assault rifle. In the second game, you fight on the streets of a city and in Covenant supercarriers, and in the third, you finish the fight and complete a 7-year build-up and a satisfying end to one of gaming's best trilogies ever. While playing as Master Chief, you're untouchable, the superhero that saves the day every time. You're so unkillable the Covenant calls you demon, and you strike fear into the heart of every member. With this power you have, you forget that you're fighting a war that cost the lives of 23 billion people and lasted 28 years, and you kill anything you want because you can. And what I love about ODST is that it completely throws this out the window. As soon as you open up the game, you're forced to reconcile with what's really happening to humanity. It utterly changes the feel of the game, and for the first time in 8 years, you're forced to recognize the truth. As Overture plays, you watch the power of the Covenant and what they've done not just to New Mombasa, not just to Earth, but to dozens of other planets. It leaves it right there in the open for everyone to see. The truth that you forget while playing as a Spartan or never realized in your time playing as John 117. We are losing. And we have been this entire time. As your screen fades to black, it transitions into the inside of one of the UNSC Navy ships, hovering in low orbit just a few minutes before the start of the mission, an attempt to save the city that's being destroyed by the Covenant below, a near suicidal mission that will result in thousands of lives lost. Here is where we first see where this game truly shines. The Halo games have always been known for good writing, but this game and Reach takes the cake when it comes to the characters, the dialogue between them, and how they made talking in a video game where you can blow stuff up and murder aliens for fun entertaining. Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this cutscene is really important and says so much in such a small amount of time that I just have to. The first person we see as the game starts is the Rookie, the protagonist of the game and the character we play as, and is the only character that doesn't talk in this cutscene, the only character whose face we can't see, and the only character that's completely separated from the rest of the team, trying to get some much needed rest in his drop pod before the big mission, and using how he's positioned in this scene to foreshadow how he'll be for the rest of the game. Quiet, faceless, nameless, and alone. Bungie made him this way on purpose. They wanted the Rookie to be a self-insert character, and for that reason he doesn't have a single line of dialogue beside the occasional grunt. Here we're introduced to the support characters in the game, Romeo, Mickey, and Dutch, and we get a small glimpse of their personalities.
The Navy put up a good fight.
Of course they did. It's Earth.
Better late than never.
How about you show some respect, Romeo?
Just saying, Dutch. They missed one.
No.
Mickey with his insightful uneasiness, Dutch with his hard-headed assertiveness, and Romeo with his audacious and mouthy nature. After the lights flash yellow, signaling for the soldiers on the ship to get ready to drop, we're shown the last two of Alpha 9.
You know the music. Time to dance.
Hello, beautiful.
Pods. Now.
Replacements?
This many years into the war, who isn't?
At least they listen.
To me. And they're not gonna like what they hear.
Orders are orders.
Come on, Veronica. What could be more important than that carrier?
My orders. And Buck, call me Captain. I'll pass on that dance, but you can show me where to sit.
Whew, okay. There's so much to unpack here. First, we're introduced to Buck, the clear leader of the squad, as the rest follows his orders, albeit begrudgingly. Second, we have Veronica, asking him if his teammates are replacements, and all of them are, because the war has been so devastating. There's a strong feel to this game, and it's not one of hope, not yet at least. Buck calls Veronica by her first name, and talking to her in a way that implies they've met each other before, asking her,
Come on, Veronica. What could be more important than that carrier?
to which she replies,
My orders.
implying other motives at hand while correcting him for calling her by her name as she walks away, showing her place in the hierarchy. And you get all of this in about a minute and 30 seconds. Like I said, the writing is phenomenal. The rest of the cutscene plays out as it ends with a smooth POV shot of the Rookie waking up from Romeo hitting us awake. Dutch gives us a silenced SMG found in this configuration only in this game, as the door-to-our pod closes and we get ready for a mission to begin.
Latest intel reports Covenant troops are massing beneath the carrier.
They're pulling back? Why?
Not gonna find out way up here.
Troopers! We are green and very, very mean! Captain, 15 clicks off the deck.
Stand by to adjust trajectory.
As you're shooting through the sky, Dare tells you that you're changing course, clearly something that wasn't planned, as shown by the others' reactions, and hinting again to other motives. After you change course, the carrier does the slip space rupture, the Halo universe's version of jumping to light speed, except in this universe, it's not just zoom fast and you're gone, it's more like set off a nuke and you're gone. For this reason, every ODST in the sky is either killed or sent flying into a bunch of different directions. This explosion causes the Rookie and another soldier's pod to collide, and sends him flying with a crash landing, knocking him out in the process. The way to progress with this game is by exploring the streets in hopes of finding clues to track down your missing squad. This way of storytelling is really well done, and it's something I haven't seen since. The Superintendent, a second-generation dumb artificial intelligence, in charge of making sure the urban infrastructure of New Mombasa runs smoothly, guides us through the streets and aids us in our new mission by showing us recordings of what it saw happen to our teammates. The Superintendent records and stores everything, even conversations. The conversations through its cameras give the player a reason to explore the streets thoroughly because of hidden audio logs scattered throughout the city that tell a story of a girl named Sadie, her story of which connects to this game in a special way. As you wake up from your crash landing, the game finds a clever way to integrate the calibration process, a staple in Halo games before, into you exiting your drop pod. Once you're free to roam the streets of New Mombasa, you recognize rather quickly that you're completely alone, in a hub world of sorts that's always dark and always has enemies patrolling them, and the game allows you to play how you want to. By sneaking past enemies, by killing them, or by doing both, and the constant looking over your shoulder and silence of the streets adds an intimidating feeling never before seen in the franchise. The Halo games have always been extremely good, and using subtlety and environmental storytelling with ODST being a prime example, and playing through it is truly remarkable. The city is riddled with abandoned cars, weird alien markings on the walls, bodies strewn everywhere, and destroyed buildings clearly showing you that the fight ended hours ago. The limited use of the soundtrack is cherry on top, and this clever way of filling a game with what I like to call intentional nothingness helps the developer to tell a non-linear story, and exploring really drives the point home. There's about 10 missions in this game, and 6 of them are through the eyes of your teammates, events that happen while you were still in your pod. After finding evidence through exploring different areas of the map, each piece of debris will have its own backstory, flashback, retelling the events following the aftermath of Alpha 9's actions. The first of which being a helmet we've seen before. Buck, Tayari Plaza, immediately after drop. The first mission we play as is through the eyes of our leader. After you and Dare crash land, she tells you that her pod won't open. However, Buck's pod opens as intended, and as soon as he is able to speak, he says this.
Did I do something wrong? Because the only thing I regret about you and me, not knowing you were a spook when we first met.
This clearly confirming speculation earlier, and not just of them being a couple, but he says something else as well. He calls her a spook, which is military lingo for being a spy, or being undercover, which is also what her armor is used for, recon, and why Mickey didn't recognize it earlier. As soon as you start, you're greeted by 2 full squads of Covenant, made up of the classic trio of brutes, grunts, and shield jackals. Making your way through the plaza, you find 2 pinned down Marines that need your help. After clearing the squads of brutes, you find the remnants of UNSC Marines, brutes, and elites, of which can only be explained as a battle scene. But why? The elites and brutes are on the same side, or to the extent of Buck's knowledge anyways, and his confusion compels him to ask Dare, to a much expected reply.
Veronica, what's with all the dead elites?
What do you mean?
Looks like a family feud, like they were killed by brutes. Is there something I should know?
It's classified.
For much needed context, Halo 3 ODST takes place the same day and day after the Master Chief is fighting on the other side of the city in Halo 2. And if you played this game before and never noticed, the UNSC Amberclad can be seen jumping with the carrier in the prepare to drop cutscene. These games take place during the Great Schism, the Covenant Civil War where brutes take over from the elites. In the shift of power, the elites are betrayed and are slaughtered by their allies. The Prophet of Truth and others had been scheming with Tartarus, the leader of the brutes, to get rid of them due to speculation of elites discovering the truth behind their false religion. This nod to the Great Schism is completely unnecessary and doesn't change anything about the game. If you're new to the franchise or don't know anything about the lore, this scene is just another pile of bodies. However, something this simple lets players both new and old get a piece of Halo's lore in an effortless way, and furthermore displays the brilliance behind its writing. Fighting through a heavily guarded area, Dare says this in your attempt to rescue her.
Buck, location.
Almost there. What's wrong?
Multiple hostiles closing on my position. Listen carefully. If I don't make it...
Whoa, hang on. I'll be right there.
As you hear the desperation in her voice, you kill a pair of hunters and walk through another security door. After walking down the stairs, or just jumping 12 feet down, you see her pod with grunts surrounding it. You of course kill these little bastards and save the day. However, opening her pod reveals that she's no longer inside. Suddenly, an engineer holding her damaged helmet starts scanning you. Thinking it's going to kill you, Romeo snipes it, and after it dies, it self-destructs, and the explosion launches her helmet straight into the window above, where we as the rookie find it 6 hours later. Uplift Nature Reserve is an interesting level and one that can really be played in whatever way you see fit, as it's one of the biggest levels in the game in terms of area covered, as well as one of the shortest if you play in the way it's intended, which is using any vehicle you can and blasting through the battles taking place on the ground and in the sky. Slowing down is just as viable of an option because the level is a beautiful one with lots of detail that can be easily missed if you drive through it. The city in the distance under attack, funny marine interactions, and the famous dead zebra on the beach. Funny enough, being the only non-alien animal ever seen in any Halo game ever, Dutch is the second member we play as. As we start the mission and walk through a small path, we immediately see that our fellow Marines need help. After clearing the small squad of Covenant, we can safely flip over the Warthog and progress through the level. One staple of the Halo games and personal favorite of mine is the sheer amount of vehicles you can use throughout them, and how there's a vehicle for everyone's playstyle. Every single vehicle is fun to use and useful in their own respects. Every Halo game encourages the player to use a vehicle and intentionally creates levels like this one around this mechanic because it's really fun, and ODST is no exception. As you drive through enemies and try not to die, a piece of dialogue plays, coming from the Colonel, telling you to help out a platoon up the road to push the primary objective.
Trooper, you're almost at 2nd Platoon's location. Give them a hand and push to the primary objective.
What is the objective, Colonel?
You know the Covenant carrier that slipped away from the city? We need to secure its old LZ. Snatch a Tier 1 asset.
Making your way up the road, you find some stranded Marines that need some help because of the sheer number of enemies there. This doesn't seem to be the team we're looking for, so when we get done here, we continue forward.
Look! The elevator! Incoming!
As soon as you think you have some downtime, something happens in the distance while crossing a bridge. Turns out the Covenant supercarrier's jump weakened the support rings on the space elevator, causing it to completely collapse with some of its debris nearly hitting you and killing the Colonel from earlier in the process. Continuing on, you finally find the squad you've been looking for. Fighting near Covenant landing pad and even further up the hill, you had another Wraith tank and even a Brute Chieftain, which are the highest ranking brutes in their military. They're extremely deadly and are able to withstand a ton of damage, but with enough speed and a little bit of luck, you make your way out alive, driving through a hole in the side of the cliff, crashing down to safety, with the final cutscene showing a little more of Dutch's personality in the process.
Lord, I didn't train to be a pilot. Tell me I don't have any more flying to do today. So, was that a yes or a no? Amen.
Typically while replaying video games, I tend to skip the cutscenes because I've already seen them before, but this game really makes it hard.
Hey, where's the fight at?
Take a guess, genius.
Mickey is the explosives expert of Alpha 9, and it comes off immediately while playing through this level. The silenced SMG may be an ODST's best friend, but Mickey loves blowing stuff up. We start the level off with full frags and a rocket launcher, perfect for the amount of enemies we fight as soon as the level starts. After we deal with ground troops, we enter a Scorpion tank and it's off to the races from this point forward. The mission as a whole doesn't really have anything important happen story-wise, and it's really just some filler for the next mission, but that's okay. Because when half of the game is empty, and you're alone for it, going around and destroying as much as you can while fellow Marines are helping you feels really great, and it's something I never thought I'd miss coming from playing as a big green man for almost a decade. And trying to keep them alive is something that means a little bit more because you're not a Spartan, and you can die just as quickly as these guys, to which you ultimately fail, but hey, that's just life. Before it ends, you find Dutch. You kill off a few enemies. Like I said, you kill off a few pain-in-my-ass enemies, and it's off to the next mission. Before we get into it, I want to take a moment to appreciate just how satisfying it is to kill a Phantom, and how perfect the sound design of these games are. Damn, that's nice. Owning Alphasight is a mission that holds a special place in my heart, and is a core memory for my gaming experiences for reasons I'll get to later. There's something so cool about this cutscene, the over-the-shoulder shot with dialogue between Dutch and Mickey that just gives you a sense of urgency, with the wraiths in the background showing you how menacing they actually are. You might be able to kill them with ease, if you're skilled, but they're still a one-shot kill. One wrong step and you're done for. After setting the charges on the bridge, making your way to the other side, you wait for as many coveys as possible to step onto the bridge before blowing it to smithereens. In a satisfying fashion, you watch their bodies fly, and make a retreat into the Oni building. Retreating to the building isn't a walk in the park either, as you have to clear the Covenant that already dropped in the open area leading up to it. Wave after wave after wave, the Covenant keep coming with relentless aggression, which forces us to retreat even further. Once we're inside the walls of the building, we can see explosives all over them, and we find out why there's so many Covenant troops trying to get inside.
Yeah, what gives? I thought we were supposed to protect this building.
I have orders to deny enemy access to all classified data housed in this facility. You don't like it, jump your butts back into orbit.
As Covenant forces come in from every side, we use whatever is at our disposal to protect the valuable information, so as to not have it fall into enemy hands. After that fight, we move into the elevator, taking us to the landing pad on the roof, with the remaining Marines we have left over, and as we saw before, downtime in this game isn't actually downtime. Before we get to the roof, we're attacked by a swarm of drones. Thinking we're safe, and as we get to the roof, we finish off the mission with a final fight with jetpack brutes and one of my favorite cutscenes in all of gaming.
All right, you up top.
What?
This day ain't turning out so bad after all.
Like I said, a core memory. NMP Headquarters is a personal favorite of mine, simply because I get to use a sniper for the entire mission. I love using precision weapons in any game, but in Halo and in Halo 3 specifically, there's truly nothing more satisfying than getting a headshot with a Halo sniper. After Dutch and Mickey blew up the Oni building, they were able to get in touch with Buck and Romeo. As they meet with them on the landing pad about to finally regroup after hours of not knowing what happened to each other, the reunion is cut short due to Banshee shooting at them from behind and causing them to crash land. What's really great about this scene is that it shows you the love that Buck has for his squad mates. At the beginning of the cutscene, Buck asks if the rookie can hear him, to which Romeo replies,
Give it up, Gunny. Even if he ain't dead, he's lost in that soup. Our comms can't cut through that.
I'll give up, huh? What if it were you down there?
Just saying. I ain't dead.
You're a piece of work, Romeo.
and after they're ambushed, he says this.
Alive or dead, we're pulling them out. You hear me? Make some noise. I got your back.
Buck might be a hard ass, but he really does care about his team, especially since this isn't his first one. Humanity lost their fight on Earth, and he could have found a way out a long time ago, but he didn't, and he spends this entire game looking for everyone in his squad. Earlier I said that the cutscenes are hard to skip because of the dialogue, but the dialogue doesn't stop being great in the cutscenes, especially with the banter between Buck and Romeo throughout the entire game, as the chemistry between the characters is great to listen to, and gives another reason to why and how this game separates itself from others.
Thanks for picking such a tall building. I'm really digging all these stairs.
Do you ever get tired of
Bitching, Romeo?
You ever get tired of busting my balls?
Point taken.
That little extra piece of magic to really make these fictional characters feel real, and gives a game personality. The entire mission isn't that special, as it's just more clearing enemies room after room, until the last section and the end of the mission. After clearing rooms of enemies, you finally catch up with Dutch and Mickey's crash site, using a giant beam as a bridge. As Banshees fly over you, they cause the beam to shake and make you second guess your life choices, and if you look down, you realize it's a one-way trip. The last section of this mission is another reason it's my personal favorite. I might love using precision weapons more than any other type, but everyone loves explosives. The last few minutes of this mission are some of the best in the entire game, as you use rocket turrets, rocket launchers, and Spartan lasers to take out the armada of Banshees and Phantoms trying to kill you while air traffic control plays. This beautiful symphony of electric guitar, brass, and percussion that makes you feel unstoppable. Even if you aren't, because karma's a bitch.
Get this thing off of me.
but with the help of your family, you can get through anything. After fighting on the rooftops of giant skyscrapers, thousands of feet in the air, and Romeo getting impaled with the bladed side of a chieftain's gravity hammer, the team finds themselves on the streets of New Mombasa only an hour before we, as the rookie, wake up. Buck, trying to find his team a way out of the city, makes his way to Kikowani Station while carrying his wounded teammate. Romeo, unable to breathe, is set down and given biofoam, which fills the empty space in his body, and now air can no longer escape his punctured lung. Mickey, scouting ahead, tells Buck to look at what he's discovered, and turns out his plan won't work due to the tunnels being flooded. As a phantom flies across the sky, he gets an idea to steal it, and as it lands, he tells Mickey to go with him, as he's the only one who knows how to fly one, and tells Dutch to stay with Romeo. After clearing some enemies, Mickey assassinates the brute pilot and successfully hijacks the Phantom. As he goes to pick up Dutch and Romeo, you find parked Banshees, and this mission takes a turn for the better. Flying Banshees in this game isn't really allowed until this point, unless you know exploits speedrunners use in their runs, and using a Banshee is always incredible. The mission's goal is a simple one: escort and protect your team so you can escape, but doing so is easier said than done, because you have to clear rooms filled with Covenant, dodge shots from brutes and grunts, and AA Wraiths trying to take you down, as well as fighting other Banshees throughout the skies, and a final battle with a Scarab that makes this mission feel like a chaotic mess that you can't get enough of. After you shoot whatever the hell these things are, and as they explode, they trigger the smooth transition into the cutscene. Flying under, Buck jumps out into the grav lift of the Phantom. Once he's inside, he asks Romeo how he's doing, and he tells Buck that he's glad they didn't go with his first plan. As he tells Buck this, he remembers a conversation that he had with Captain Dare at the beginning of the game.
Hell, I wouldn't go down there even if you ordered me to.
Come on, Veronica. What could be more important than that carrier?
My orders. And Buck, call me Captain.
Mickey, turn around. Find a safe place to set us down.
What? Why?
I lost something. Now I know where to find her.
At the end of every mission, it fades into the rookie examining the remnants that made you play the mission in the first place. However, after Kikowani Station is different.
Can anyone hear me? This is Captain Veronica Dare. My beacon is active. Need immediate assistance. Someone?
Once underground, you hear Dare call out once again.
They've got me cornered. I'm low on ammo. If you can hear me, I'm on sub-level 9. News station.
We're 2 levels above her, so we need to get deeper. The aesthetic of the entire game really shines in this level's design. The long, cold, and confusing streets of the city are mimicked under it, with the corridors of the sub-levels of the data hive. The data hive is a massive facility that keeps the information of what happens within all of New Mombasa. As you walk through the halls of the massive structure, you can see thousands of servers filled with valuable and sensitive information, and Covenant around every corner. You think to yourself, there's so many more of them down here than there are up there, and they're just as strong. Coming down here alone is near suicide. The deeper we go, the closer we get to Dare, the more we see of them. So the real question is, what important information specifically are they looking for? There's servers all around them, so why not steal this? There must be more somewhere, and they must believe it's important. Important enough to try and stop you by all means necessary, and important enough to risk your own life for it. After some fighting, you find an MP arguing with Virgil, the AI that runs New Mombasa, and the same AI that's been helping us find our squad above, but Virgil isn't letting him through. After you save the MP's life, he tells you that he needs to get to the lower floor to check on his team. After this, the console turns blue, and Virgil gives you access to the lower floors, to which he says,
Welcome. Access granted.
Huh. Guess you have the magic touch.
As the chamber opens, drones fly out from under it, and after you're done killing them, you jump down to the next floor, and the MP and Virgil have an interesting exchange, to say the least.
What's wrong with you, Virgil? You trying to get me killed?
Warning. Hitchhikers may be escaped convicts.
Can't see a damn thing. You go first.
The dark hallways make it hard to see, and for this reason the MP tells you to go ahead of him. Not even minutes go by before you see what happened to his team, with bodies of other dead policemen and drones laid across the floor. Fighting through more enemies in an attempt to get to your destination, you finally get to the level 9 chamber. As you go to open it, the MP speaks once more.
You're going down to level 9 too. Huh. Guess I could use some backup.
clearly hinting at some other motives, and honestly, this being the first time I've ever really noticed this change in tone. Once you're finally on level 9, the door prematurely closes as swarms ambush the both of you. Being too much to handle, the policeman dies, and Virgil says this.
Crime doesn't pay.
Which is another piece of dialogue I never really paid attention to. And it just shows you the new things you can notice even after replaying the same game more than 10 times like I have. The cool thing is that the dialogue between them is actually part of a really good Easter egg put into the game that connects him with the audio logs you find throughout the streets. After you fight a squad of brutes, Dare says this over the radio.
Buck? Who knows if you can hear me, but I'm sorry. I should have told you more about this mission. More about everything.
Killing the squad just outside a locked door opens it, leading you down a hallway.
It's you. I thought... Never mind. What was your name again? Inside, now! Some idiots blew the building at the top of the shaft. Woke the whole hive. Down there? That's the Superintendent. The AI that runs every system in the city. My mission... Our mission... is to secure the Superintendent's data. Problem is, there's only one way in from here. Right through the hive. It would have been suicide to go alone, and I was hoping for more backup. But I guess you're it. You've been solo since we dropped. Fighting on the surface? Unless you spent all night hiding in your pod, you must know your stuff. Show me.
Here, we finally have an answer to the question they made us ask about her at the beginning of the game. But as much as she's kept secrets from us, this still doesn't tell us what the information actually is. So, to find out what we have to make it to the Superintendent. Taking an elevator up to the level of the hive, you can see just how dangerous this species is, and how much they can grow in just a few hours. After you clear the infestation of drones, you make your way down a corridor, and drop down to see that brutes have already beat you to the Superintendent. After this, the door finally opens, and you can make your way inside to retrieve what we've been fighting for all night long. Once the door opens, it reveals the main server room, and you find that it's damaged. As the door closes behind you, you continue to search the room and hear noises coming from behind a panel in the wall. When you go to look, you see a blue tendril, and Dare tells you to lower your weapon.
We've seen them before on other ops, but we've never gotten this close. I spotted this one in the tunnels. Watched it access comm lines, security cameras, traffic controls, you name it. Eventually it holed up here. Oni calls them engineers. Believes they're some sort of biological supercomputers. If I'm right, this one has taken the Superintendent's data and combined it with its own. Everything we want to know about the Covenant, what they're looking for into the city, is right in here.
The engineer, turning on the monitor, shows us that jetpack brutes have made their way to us, from the buggers raising the alarm. And after, we see a familiar face just below them. Knowing that the engineer's working against them, the Covenant sends as many troops as they can to stop you, and they won't stop until you're dead.
No time to explain, but do not, I repeat, do not shoot anything pink.
Whatever you say, come on!
Those brutes are here for the engineer. They'll kill it if they get the chance. You, stay behind me, okay?
After you shoot and hammer your way out of the Superintendent, Buck and Veronica start arguing again, and with it, the mood of the game starts to change. You've been alone all night, and having both of them bickering to one another is really refreshing. Even though you feel like this might get old or annoying quickly, it's a much needed touch of normalcy, and it's a welcome change.
I've seen hundreds of these things today. Why is this one so important?
This engineer knows what the Covenant's after. If I could safely capture more of them, I would. What they know could win the war.
Oh.
You haven't killed any of them, have you?
No! Well, maybe one or two.
Nice work.
How was I supposed to know? Whew, Lord, that thing stinks. Kind of reminds me of my... What was that for?
Abandoning the mission.
What mission? You dropped off the grid. My squad was scattered. And that?
For coming back. Thank you.
This cutscene isn't just about the love between these two characters. In my opinion, it shows the humanity of the ODSTs in general. The real quarrels between them show through in this game and is something that hasn't really been explored before in any other Halo game. Ironically, this game is known and remembered for its dark aesthetic and moody and depressing undertones, but that really misses a huge chunk of the story being told. Sure, half of the game is on the streets, and when you were a kid, you were probably scared to play this alone. But the other half is a story that shows the love of family, trying to survive with banter and playful, comedic, lighthearted dialogue you don't really get in any other Halo, outside of maybe Sergeant Johnson in the original trilogy. They have relationships, and they're trying to complete a mission, but that isn't all they are. Halo Reach did something similar, and it did it extremely well, tugging at your heartstrings throughout the entire story of the planet that would later fall. But even in Reach, nobody showed too much emotion. Every piece of dialogue was about a mission, objective, or something political, because that was the story they wanted to tell, and because that's the story they could. Imagine the Spartans having feeling and being gay about it. They're Spartans. They're genetically modified killing machines that aren't allowed to feel anything and are expected to finish the mission by any means necessary. In the extended lore, Oni even sends Spartans to die on suicidal missions on a damn near daily basis, and sometimes for the smallest pieces of information. Some of the most vital and expensive weapons they have, used as a pseudo-biomechanical cannon fodder. A burden of which ODSTs don't have to worry about nearly to the same extent. ODST is a game that finally allowed Bungie to explore different themes and tell a human story, not just a story about humanity. The last mission isn't one I really need to go in depth on gameplay side. After making it through miles of dangerous highway and fighting the last few squads sent to kill you or trying to protect the engineer, you finish the game. However, the great thing about this level is not what's in it, rather what's outside of it. Because the closer you get to safety, the more you see the destruction everywhere else. The Banshees and Phantoms overhead, the Scarabs crawling on the sides of walls, destroyed buildings everywhere, and the Covenant supercarriers glassing the planet in the distance. The things outside that remind you of the fact that even if you're about to beat the game, you still lost, and gives the player a bittersweet moment of both relief and sorrow. On the 13th of January, 2022, Microsoft turned off the Xbox 360 servers, ending 15 years of memories both good and bad. People in the last days playing around the maps they'd come to know as a second home, killing each other in whatever way they saw fit. And then they stopped. Knowing that this would be their final moments, they would ever be able to walk the halls and corridors of their beloved titles in the same servers they grew up with. They waited and talked to one another in game chat, or sent their last voice or text messages on how crazy of a journey this has been for everyone who had the privilege to experience it. Whether you got this beautiful box as a gift or bought it with your own money, it didn't matter because we got to play these games in their prime, as the final players say their final goodbyes to complete strangers they would never meet again. They cemented their glory as the game announcer says his final words.
Game over.
These games bring back so many memories. I mainly played these as a kid and it really influenced my imagination as a young boy, which I'm sure some of you can relate to. Never being able to focus in school, not just due to your ADD, but because you just couldn't wait for school to end so you could go home and play Halo. This game is incredible, and even though I just spent however long explaining why it's my favorite, Halo 3 will always be the magnum opus of Bungie's legendary imprint on millions of people's lives. We'll have to wait and see what the future holds, and I still have hope, but even if they prove me wrong, we'll still have what was made by people who cared. So, thank you, Bungie. You changed my life, and millions of others as well.